Hello and welcome. In this video, I will introduce you to HTML. What is HTML? HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It is the code that is used to structure a web page and its content. For example, content could be structured within a set of paragraphs, a list of bulleted points, or using images and data tables. HTML is a markup language and not a programming language. HTML defines the structure of your content using markup. HTML consists of a series of elements. An element is basically a part of a web page. The elements are used to wrap different parts of the content to make it appear a certain way or act a certain way. HTML elements are the building blocks of HTML pages. HTML elements are represented by tags, opening and closing tags. HTML elements can have tags that are used to label pieces of content on a website, such as heading, paragraph, and so on. Web browsers uses the tags to render or display the content of a website, but the web browsers does not display the actual HTML tags. Hello and welcome to this video. In this video, I will walk you through a basic anatomy of an HTML element. What is an HTML element? An element is part of a web page. An element may contain a data item, text, or an image, and can also be empty. An element usually consists of an opening and closing tag. An element with no content is referred to as an empty element and does not have a closing tag. Let's take a look at a basic illustration of the anatomy of a HTML element. So this is a basic illustration of an HTML element with several parts. So the HTML element basically consists of an opening tag, which is this P here. In this case, a P is a paragraph tag. This P here is what you use to insert a paragraph in a HTML document or a web page. So this is the opening tag, which is where the paragraph begins, and this is the closing tag. The closing tag is differentiated with the / before the actual tag is closed. And the actual element, which is the P, which stands for paragraph, is enclosed in angle brackets. So we've got the left angle brackets and the right angle brackets. And the content between the paragraph tag, the beginning of the opening tag to the end, is what is called the content. So this area here is referred to as the content, while the element is the beginning to the start, from the opening tag all the way to the closing tag, is what is referred to as the element. So the HTML element is everything from the start tag to the end tag. So anything from here all the way to the closing tag is referred to as the element. Notice the key difference between the content and the element. So this area here is what is the content, while anything from the opening tag to the closing tag is referred to as the element. Hello and welcome. In this video, I will walk you through a basic HTML document structure. This is an illustration of a basic HTML document structure. So I'm going to walk you through the structure from top to bottom. I'll start with the doc type. The doc type is what is called a declaration. It must be the very first thing in your HTML document before the HTML tag. The doc type declaration is not an HTML tag. It is an instruction to the web browser about what version of HTML the page is written in. It lets the web browser interpret the HTML document as a web page. You always have to add the doc type declaration to the very top of your document. It's the first thing you should do, so the web browsers knows what type of document to expect, and then they can render the correct document. I have written the doc type in uppercase, but it is not case sensitive, so you can also write it in lowercase. So in the illustration here, I'm saying doc type space HTML. So I'm basically saying the document type is an HTML document. So you write, the way you write the doc type, you do the less than sign, exclamation mark, doc type, and then HTML, and then a greater than sign. Next, we have the HTML element. So we've got the opening HTML element and the closing HTML element. The closing element is identified with the / before the tag is closed. The HTML element wraps all the content on the entire page, and it is sometimes known as the root element. Next, we've got the head element, which contains all the meta information about the document. Meta basically refers to information about information, so it's micro information about information. The head element acts as a container for all the stuff you want to include on the HTML page. So whatever content is enclosed in the head, between the head element, isn't the content that is visible when someone visits your web page. So within the head element, you can add tags like the meta charset, also the page title. You can also include that in there. What is a meta charset? The meta charset basically has a value of UTF-8, which is the attribute. This element basically is used to set the character of your document. So the standard is a UTF-8, which includes most characters from the vast majority of human written languages. So when you have your meta charset set to UTF-8, it essentially means that it can handle any textual content you might put on it. The title element is used to set the title of your page, which is the title that appears in the web browser tab. So when the page actually loads, it will have a title on the web browser. This is the title you would have set within the document. So that will get displayed and people can bookmark that and also save that as a favorite. Next, we have the body element. The body element actually contains the visual content of the page. So when you visit a website, the actual content you can see is the content that is wrapped between the body tag, which is anything between the opening and closing body tag is the visible content that is displayed on the web page. So it contains all the content that you want to show to the web user or visitor when they visit your page, whether that is text, images, videos, games, playable audio tracks, or whatever content you have to place it between the body element for the visitor to see it. Inside the body element, I have got some other nested element. I've got a H1 tag. The H1 element basically is used for heading tag. You can use that if you want to create a heading. And usually there are H1 to H6, H1 being the largest. We've got the P, which stands for paragraph. You use that to add paragraph to a web page. Next, we've got the IMG, which is an image tag. If you want to add images to your web page, you use the IMG tag. The IMG is what is known as a self-closing tag. It doesn't have a closing tag. Inside the IMG tag, you have to specify a couple of attributes. The first attribute is called the SRC, or the source. So basically, if you're adding an image, you need to use the source attribute to specify where the image is going to be referenced from. And every attribute, you assign a value using the equals to, and you enclose the values in quotes. So in my example here, I've said the image is located in my images folder, and the name of the image is called poppy.jpg. Next, I've got another attribute called alt. This is called the alternate text, and you have to give it a value. I've given it a value of cute poppy image. Basically, what that does, if for any reason the image that is meant to be on this page does not get displayed, the alternate text will display the text instead. So the text will advise visitors that there was an image here of maybe a cute puppy or whatever. But basically, you have to give a descriptive text that will show up if anything happens to the image. For example, if the image is moved or not positioned properly, or for some reason or the other it doesn't display, then the alternate text gets displayed instead. There are so many HTML elements. I've only just used a tiny bit here in this illustration. But as you continue to get more knowledgeable in HTML, you begin to get more exposed to more HTML elements. So that's it for this video on the basic HTML document structure. Thank you and bye. Hello and welcome. In this video, I will show you how to create a basic HTML document structure. This is an illustration of a basic HTML document structure that I am going to replicate inside a text editor and then save it as an index.html file. Web pages are saved with a .html file extension, and the index is basically the home page or the entry page to your website if your website has multiple web pages. Let's begin by creating a folder structure for our sample HTML document. I have already created my folder structure on my desktop, but you can create yours anywhere on your computer. So this is my folder structure here, and the way I created it is by right-clicking on a blank space on my desktop and just clicking on the new option and selecting folder, and then just giving the folder a name. In this case, I've called my folder My Projects. So that's the first step. And once you've done that, then open up the folder and then you create a project folder. This outer folder here will be a container for all your website projects that you want to create. It's always a good idea to keep all your projects in one location. So if I open that up, and then I've created another folder inside this folder, basically the same way, right click and go new folder and then give it a name. I've called it sample-site. It's a good practice when naming your project folders or your folders in general to give them lowercase names. If it contains more than one word, use a hyphen like I've done here. I've done sample-site to give the folder a name. It's always good to use lowercase. It's a better naming convention. So now that we've created a folder for our project, we're going to create 3 subfolders inside this folder. So click on it and create 3 folders. Just right click and go new folder and do that 3 times, and just give each of the folders a name. Call one images, the other call scripts, and the other one you call it style sheets. And this basically helps you organize your file. So if you've got any images you want to use, you put the images inside the images folder. If you've got any scripts like JavaScript, you place that inside the scripts folder. And if you've got any CSS, that goes in the style sheets folder. If you are using a Mac computer, you can create these folders the same way as well. I have added a couple of images to my images folder. I've got these 2 images here, and I've got them set at 256 by 256, which means the width and the height have been set to 256. And I got these images from a website called unsplash.com, which is this site here. So basically you just type in whatever you're interested in, your subject title. Say for example, if you're interested in dogs, you type in dogs there, and you can just get a variety of images relating to your search, and then you just download what you want. So that's what I did. I just went through these images and just downloaded a couple of them. So feel free to type in whatever subject you want. Doesn't have to be dogs, but anything that takes your fancy. So once you've got your images, so make sure you put them in your images folder. The images will probably not be the same size, so you can resize them, and you can use any image editing tool If you're on a Windows computer, you can use Microsoft Paint. So the way I resize my images, I just right clicked and went to open with Paint, which is Microsoft Paint. And while you're in Paint, you just click on the resize button. Make sure it's set to pixels. Okay, you can see this is my current size. And when you want to reset your or resize your images, make sure you check on pixels, put in the size you want, the horizontal, the vertical, which is the width and the height, and make sure this option here that says maintain aspect ratio, make sure that is unchecked when you set the horizontal and vertical value. So I've already done this. I'm not going to do this again. I'm just showing you how I did it. Once you've done that, then you can save that back into your images folder and just give it a relevant name. So that's it for this part of the video. Hello and welcome to the part 2 of creating a basic HTML document structure. We are going to be using a text editor, and the text editor I'll be using is called Brackets. I recommend you use brackets so it's easier for you to follow along in the example. However, if you haven't got brackets, or if you've got a preferred text editor that you're used to, please feel free to use that. To open the Brackets text editor, just locate the icon. If you're on a Mac, go to your applications folder. If you're on Windows, go to all programs and you should see the icon for Brackets. Just click to launch the application. If this is the first time you launch the Brackets text editor after installation, it provides some sample code for you here just to illustrate how various parts of it work. But what we're going to do, I'm going to open up our project directory inside the text editor. So I'm going to navigate to it. I'm going to click File, Open Folder, and the folder is on my desktop. So I'm going to navigate to my project folder, which is this one here. And this is what I want. I'll just click and that will open it inside the text editor. So on the left pane here, you can see my subfolders and my main project folder. So if I expand this folder here, you can see I've got a couple of images in that folder. So I'm going to create a new file and I'm going to save that file as an index.html. Any file that's got the .html extension is treated as a web page or a HTML document. So I'm going to go to File and click New, and you can see it's given a new here, and I'm going to click on Save. I'll do Save As, and I'm going to save it into the root. This area here is the root, and I'll call it index.html and click Save. So you can see on the title here, it shows the name of the file I've just created, and you can see where it's got working files. It's got the file currently highlighted, which means any file in this area is the file you are currently working on. So any code I write in here now will now be an HTML code. So when I launch this with a web browser, it will know that it's an HTML document. So the very first thing you do in an HTML document is indicate the doc type. So the way you do that, you do a less than symbol on your keyboard, an exclamation mark, and then you type in the word doc type. You can make it lowercase if you like. It's not case sensitive. And then you do a space, and then in lowercase you type in HTML, and then you do a greater than sign. So that's the very first line of code you write inside an HTML document page. So let's move on to the next line. So the next line here, you can give a couple of spaces if you want. I'm going to now specify the HTML document. So you do that by, again, a less than sign on your keyboard, type in HTML and then a greater than sign. Most tags have an opening and a closing tag. One good thing about brackets is that it automatically also adds the closing tag for you. So all you need to do is just press enter on your keyboard and that will separate them. So any code between the opening and closing HTML tags will now be referred to as an HTML document. So anything between these elements, the opening and closing, is treated as a web page. So next, let's tab down and then we create the head section, which is a head element. Again, you do a less than sign, you type in head and then a greater than sign, and it automatically places a closing element for you. So just press enter to separate, and in between the head element, inside the head element, is where we're going to specify some other nested element. So we're going to place some other elements in between the head element in the next video. But before I wrap up this video, I just want to create the body element. So again, the way you do that, you do a less than sign and then type in body and then a greater than sign. You can see automatically places a closing tag, and inside the body element is where we'll have some other elements. Any elements inside the body element is the content that the visitor to the page will see. Any tags or elements inside the head is just for informational purposes. It doesn't get displayed. The only thing that gets displayed, if you have a title here, the title will show when the page is rendered by the web browser. Just as you have the title here, see an index.html, when the web browser launches this web page, it will have whatever title you've given to the page, it will have it displayed in the web browser window. So that's it for this part of the video. In part 3, we will add more elements to the document structure. Thank you for watching and bye for now. Hello and welcome to the part 3 of creating a basic HTML document structure. Before we carry on from where we left off in part 2, I just want to show you something. If you notice here, we've got some indentation inside the text editor. Indentation is very important. It helps makes your code more organized and neater, and makes it easier for someone to read your code and also for you to read your code. So looking at the code here from the indentation, you can tell that the head and the body elements are child elements to the HTML element. So any content I add inside the head element will become child elements of the head, and then grandkids of the HTML. Any elements I add inside the body element will become child or children element of the body element, and there will be grandchildren for the HTML element. So you can tell the way the elements are related from the indentation. So indentation is very important. So I'm going to add a couple of elements to the head section. So I come to the head, inside between the head element, I just do a tab, and if you notice as I do a tab, it automatically indents the place where the cursor is flashing. So again, to create a new tag, I do a less than sign, I type in the name of the tag. It's going to be a meta space car set. Okay, and then the value, this meta car set is an attribute, and the value, I'm going to set this value to UTF-8, and then I close it with a greater than sign. The meta car set basically is used to set the character set for the document so that any text you enter will be recognized by anybody who's viewing this all over the world. So it makes it easier to interpret the characters in the document. When you set attributes, you always have to use the equals to give the value, and the values are enclosed in quotes, as you can see here. So I'm going to add another element. This time it's going to be a title element. So again, left angle bracket or less than sign. I'm going to type in title and then a greater than sign. You notice automatically it does that for us. Not all text editors do that. Some you have to manually do it yourself, but brackets automatically places the other tags for you, so it saves a bit of typing. So in between the tag, I'll type in my title. I'm just going to say my sample web page. I'm going to leave it like that. If you notice the indentation, you can tell that these two elements are child elements of the head element. So I'm just going to remove some spacing. So that's it for the head element. That's all I'm doing for there at the moment. Next, so any content inside the head element is not visible. The only thing that is visible is this title here that will show up on the title of the web browser when the page is viewed. But everything else is just informational purposes or used to reference other related documents. So now let's add some elements inside the body element, and anything between the body element is the actual content that is visible on the web page. So I'm going to add a H1 element. So again, I do a less than sign, type in H1 and then close that, and I'm going to just say hello world. Okay, the H1 is basically used as a heading. So if you want to add some kind of heading to your web page, you use the H1 tags, and there are 6 of them, H1 to H6, H1 being the largest heading and then H6 being the lowest heading. Another thing I want to do is add a paragraph tag. So the way you add paragraphs to a web page is by using the P tag. So again, I do a less than sign, type in P and then a greater than sign, and in between the opening and closing P element, you just type in your whatever text you want. So I'm just going to say today is a new day. So that's all I'm typing in for now. So you can use as many paragraph tags as you want to insert paragraphs anywhere within your document. All right, I want to also add an image to my page here. And the way to add the image, you use the img tag. So you do a less than sign, you type in img. Img stands for image. You do a space. You need to add an attribute, and the attribute I'm going to add is called a source attribute. This is important because I'm using this to reference where the image is coming from. The image is located inside this images folder here. If I expand that, so this is the image I'm targeting, so I need to reference the source. So you use equals to sign and then you use quotes. in between the quotes, you specify the location of the image. So it's located inside my images folder, and the name of the image is called poppy.jpg. All right, you see that's this one here. It's a JPEG file, and I'm going to add another attribute called the alt. This is an alternate text, and basically what this means, I'm going to give it a value first. I'll use the equals to give it a value, and I'll just say, you can type in whatever text you want, and just type in Poppy image, and then I'll do a greater than sign to close the image tag. So with the image tags, they don't have a specific closing tag like the other tags. So they have what you call the self-closing. You only have just the opening, you don't have a closing when you're using an image tag. So what this alt attribute will do, if for some reason this image is not able to be displayed, then this text will take its place. The text will just indicate to the visitor of the page that there was an image here. So this will only show up if this image is not displayed correctly or not displayed at all. That's why it's called the alt. It's an alternate text. So that's it for the document. I'm just going to click on the file option and click save all, and that should save the document. One thing I want to point out inside this image here, where I've indicated the source, because it's located inside the same project directory as this index.html file that I'm working on, you only need to specify the name of the folder and then the name of the image, just like I've done here. All right. One good thing about the brackets text editor is that it's got a live preview where you can preview your page. So I'm going to click on this live preview, and that will open up the Google Chrome. It only works with Google at the moment. So if you click on that, it will launch. You can see here it's changing color. So this is what the web page looks like here. This content here, this piece of this code here is what is been rendered here in the web browser. So you can see here where it's got my sample web page. That's this title here. So when anything within the head content is not displayed, the only thing you can see is the title, which shows up here inside within the web browser. And then you can see here, hello world is this H1 element here, and then the paragraph is this here, and then we have the image, which is this image here. And notice also the document is rendered in the way it has been displayed in the editor. So you can see we had the title first, which is this on this page here. We inside the body element, we've got the H1, which is this, the paragraph, and then the image of the puppy. So that's basically a very basic HTML document structure. Hello and welcome. In this video, I will explain what attributes are, and will also show you an example of an HTML attribute being used. What are HTML attributes? Attributes basically are used to provide additional information about an element. So they contain extra information about the element that you do not want to appear in the actual content. All HTML elements can have attributes. There are some properties that all attributes should have. They should have a space between it and the element name. The equals to sign is used to assign a value to a attribute. The value of the attributes are enclosed in quotes. Attributes are always specified in the opening element tag. Attributes are paired. That means they will have a name and they will also have a value. I have used an attribute in one of the previous videos. In this course, I use a source attribute. I'm going to go over that attribute again. There are different types of attributes, and the source attribute is one of such attributes. It's usually used inside an image tag. So when you are using the HTML image tag to define an image, you use the source attribute, which I have used here on line 11 of my code editor. You can see the source attribute and is spelled SRC. So this is the name of the attribute, and you can see the equals to sign here. The equals to is used to give the attribute a value, and you have to enclose the value in quotes. You can see here I've enclosed the value of this attribute, which is called source. I've enclosed it in quotes. The source attribute, when used with an image tag, basically is used to reference the file name where the image is located. In my example, my image is located inside my images folder, which is this image, and inside, and this is the name of the image. So I'm referencing the location of the image using the source attribute. I also want to introduce you to another attribute that we've also used before. The attribute is called the alt attribute, also referred to as alternative attribute. This attribute basically is used to specify an alternative text to be used when an image cannot be displayed. In my code editor here inside the image tag, I've also got this alt attribute here. So if for any reason this image cannot be displayed, the alternative text I have specified here will be displayed instead. Say for example, I know that the name of this image is called puppy.jpg. If I come here and just add a 1 to it, you can see the image no longer shows. It's now showing the alternative text instead, which says puppy image. So that's one of the ways or benefits of using the alt attribute with an image tag. So I've corrected that now. You can see the image is now showing correctly. Another valuable reason for using the attribute, the alt attribute, is that the value of the attribute can be read by screen readers. This way, someone listening to the web page, for example, a blind person, can hear the element. So the descriptive text helps users who have visual impairment and cannot actually see the image, so they're able to interpret or read the text instead. And they're able to do that using special software called screen readers, which enable them to read the text that is on the screen for the visually impaired. So that's it for this brief introduction to HTML attributes. I've only introduced you to a couple of attributes in this video, but there are tons of HTML attributes out there. Thank you for watching, and bye for now. Hello and welcome. In this video, I will cover some of the basic HTML elements you will use for marking up text. I'm going to start with the headings. So the heading elements allow you to specify that certain parts of your content are headings or subheadings of your content. Just in the same way that a book has a main title, a chapter, titles and subtitles, an HTML document can also have similar properties. HTML contains 6 heading levels, which are from H1 to H6. The H1 being the largest heading. Normally, the most common level used is usually 3 to 4. Most people don't tend to use 5 and 6. So just remember that H1 is the largest, H6 is the lowest. In previous videos, I created this HTML document here, which is rendered as this page. So here we've got a heading tag, which is the H1. You can see here I've used it on line 15. So if I wanted to, for example, add a couple more, I'm just going to copy this. I'm just being lazy here, and I paste that a couple of times, and you can see. So what I want to do here, I want to change this to H2. So you can see the different levels of heading tags that you can use. You can see here, this is a H2, which is smaller than the H1. And if I come here, type in H3 and change this to H3, and you can see this is smaller. So this is H1, H2, and H3, depending on how big you want your headings to be on your web page. We have also used the paragraph tag so far in this course. So I'm going to show you an example of using a paragraph tag to mark up or add paragraph to your web page. Inside our document here, you can see on line 18, I've used a paragraph tag to add a paragraph to the page, and you can see the content inside the paragraph says today is a new day, and that's today is a new day displayed. So you can use the paragraph tag to add as many paragraphs as you want and to any areas of your web page or document. Next, I want us to take a look at list. A lot of the web content is made up of lists, and HTML has special elements for these type of lists. Marking up a list or list always consists of 2 elements. The most common list types are ordered and unordered list. The ordered list is represented with the OL tag, and the unordered list is represented with the UL tag. The ordered list are for lists where the order of the items matters. For example, a recipe where you have to follow the recipe in a certain order. With unordered list, these are lists where the order of the items does not matter. For example, a shopping list, and this is usually wrapped up in a UL tag. So with unordered list, by default, when you create them, they appear as a bulleted list. So I'm going to create an unordered list inside this HTML document. So I've added an extra paragraph here on line 20, which is this text here. So I'm just going to create an unordered list. So to create an unordered list, you do the less than sign, you type in UL, which stands for unordered, and then the greater than sign. You can see it's automatically placed in the opening and the closing. I'm just going to press enter on the keyboard to separate that list. And inside that list, you also need the list tag to list the individual items for the unordered list. So inside there, you type in the LI. Again, you do less than, and then you type in LI to indicate it's a list item, and then a greater than, and inside, in between the list tag is where you list the item. So I'm going to type in kind, and just being lazy here, I'm just going to copy this and paste it a couple of times and just change the content in the list. I'm just going to indent that a little bit. So with the unordered list I've created here, you can see the output here. You can see inside the output is bulleted here. That's the default. When you create an unordered list, by default, when it creates the list, it will have them in a bulleted format, as you can see here on the web page. If I wanted to turn this into an ordered list, I'll just replace the UL with an OL. The list item stays the same. All I need to do is replace the UL with OL, and this with OL, and that will become numbered. So you can see I've replaced the U with the O to show that it's an ordered list, and you can see it has changed from bulleted to an ordered list. You can see it's 1, 2, 3. So that's the main difference. If you want something to be in a specific order, then you have to use the ordered list. If you don't care what order they're in, then use the unordered list. So I'm going to change this back to unordered list and just replace the U with the O. So that's basically how you mark up text. So this illustration here is just very basic level markup. It can get more complex than this, but if you can understand the basic concept, then as you progress to more advanced stuff, you'll be able to have a better understanding of how the old stuff works. So that's it for this lecture on marking up text. Many thanks for watching, and bye for now. Hello and welcome. In this video, I will show you how to create links for a web page or website. Links are very important. They are what makes the web a web. The web is basically comprised of a collection of links. So links are found in nearly all web pages. They allow users to click their way from page to page, and also enables them to access resources on the web. A link does not have to be a text. It can be an image or any other HTML element. To create or add a link, you need to use a simple element, which is referred to as the anchor tag, which is abbreviated to A, and you also need a special attribute called the href attribute. The href attribute is used to specify the destination address. So when the link is clicked on, you want it to take the visitor somewhere else. So you use the h attribute to specify the destination address. So let's create a very simple link. I'm going to create a link that will take me to Google. So to create a link, you start with the less than sign, you type in A, which is the anchor, and in between the anchor you type in the text. I just type in Google, and that's the closing tag. So you can see here there's no link at the moment. For this text here to be linkable, you need to include the href attribute inside the opening anchor tag. So now that I've added this href attribute inside the opening anchor element, you can see here now that it's turned into a link. You can always tell it's a link because of the hand symbol. It turns into a hand. So if I click on this now, it will watch out for this address. It will change to Google. If I click on that now, it takes me to Google. You can see it's taking me to the Google homepage. So I'm just going to click to go back. So that's basically how to create a link in a nutshell. So if you want to turn an entire paragraph into a link, all you need to do is insert the anchor tag, for example, at the beginning of the paragraph and one at the end. You can nest it inside another element, and that will turn the entire content into a paragraph. When you create links, you can wrap an entire paragraph into a link. You can make it linkable, like I've done here on line 34. I've just added this paragraph here, and you can see here I've made the entire content of the paragraph into a link. So if I click on this link now, it will take me to this website here. So this website here is the value for the href attribute. You can see I've embedded the anchor element inside the paragraph tag. So I've nested it. So you can nest elements within elements. So I've nested the anchor tag here. You can see after the paragraph tag, that's the beginning where the link will start. And you can see the closing anchor tag here. And also we've got the closing paragraph. Hence is the entire content of the paragraph is turned into a link. So you can turn any text into a link depending on where you place the anchor tag, the opening element, and the closing anchor element. So if I click on this now, it will take me to this website here. So let me click on that, and you can see here it's taking me to this website. So that's basically how you create a link. So if you only want certain part, for example, if I only wanted this part here that says gratitude, if I want to turn that, just that text into a link, all I need to do is relocate the anchor and the href attribute. I just relocate all this and place that at the beginning of this here, and also in the anchor element there, and that will make only this text into a clickable link. So in my paragraph here, I have relocated the anchor tag and also the href attribute from the entire content. So I've wrapped it around just this text here called gratitude. So you can see this is the beginning and this is where it ends. So hence you can see for the content for this paragraph, you can see the only thing that's linkable here is this text called gratitude. So if I click on that now, it will take me to this website, which is the value of the address for the link. Another thing I want to highlight with links is that links have different colors based on whether the link has been visited or not been visited. By default, when you create a link on your web page, and if that link has not been visited, it is highlighted in blue. As you can see here on line 17, I've added two elements here. I've added an H2 element and I've nested an anchor tag inside that element. You can see this link here because I have not visited it. By default, it is blue. any link that has been visited becomes purple. You can see here this link here is purple because I've already visited that link, and the Google link also is purple because it has been visited. So that's basically how you create links. So you can create links in any area of your web page or HTML document. So I'm just going to get rid of this one here. I don't need this link here on line 17. I'll get rid of that. And I also want to get rid of the Google link. I just wanted to show you an illustration of how to create the link. So that's it now. I'm just going to save my document. So this is, refresh the page. So this is basically how I want the document to look like. So I've only got a link here, which is this particular text. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and bye for now. Hello and welcome. In this video, I will be showing you how to use HTML comments. What are HTML comments? HTML comments are used to describe and also to debug your code. By debug, I mean troubleshoot. So if there's something wrong with your code, you can use HTML comments to try and find out where the problem is. HTML comments are ignored by the web browser when the web page loads. Let's take a look at the syntax. Syntax basically refers to how something is done. So this is how you would add a comment to an HTML document. So you start with the less than sign, the exclamation mark, 2 dashes, then the text you want to add to the comment, and then 2 dashes, and then the greater than sign. So let me show you some comments that I have added to a document. This is a document we've been working on the course. So I've already inserted some comments. You can see here, I've added a comment here. So you do the less than sign, exclamation, 2 dashes, and then the text you want to add. And you do 2 dashes and then the greater than sign. It's very important that you end the comment properly. If not, it will comment out your entire code and nothing will get displayed on the page. So you can see here, this just describes what this is. It says the content inside the head element is not displayed by the browser. So comments are useful because you can describe various parts of your code to yourself and to others who may want to look at your code. When you write code that you don't describe, you may know what you're doing at that time, but maybe several months or even years down the line, you come back to that code, you may have forgotten what certain aspects of the code does. So comment is useful in describing your code. Where you place comments is also important. You can see here I've placed it next to the actual tag so it doesn't affect what's displayed. You can also place it on a separate line by itself. You can see here I've placed a comment here on the side, and I've placed it here on a separate line by itself. You can see the comments have not displayed on the page because they are ignored when the web browser loads. You can see here I've added several comments here. These are all comments and they are all ignored by the web browser. These are all single line comments. You can also add comments that will affect multiple lines of code. For example, here I can shift this here, this ending comment. If I want it to affect all this code, I just come here and put, and that will comment out all this. You can see the content has disappeared because I've commented out the entire one. So this is how you would comment out multiple lines of code if you wish to do so. So I'm just going to insert that comment back. So that's how you add multiple line comments and also single line comments. You can also use comments for debugging or troubleshooting. Say for example, in certain parts of your code, is not appearing properly or not displaying properly, you can just comment out different parts of the code at a time and just test different aspects and try to find out where the problem lies. So they are useful both as a descriptive method to describe your code and also for troubleshooting purposes. So that's it for this video on HTML comments. Many thanks for watching, and bye for now. Hello and welcome. In this video, I will explain what a source code is, and will also show you how to view a web page source. What is a source code? Source code basically refers to all the components used in building a website or creating a computer program. This includes things like text, images, scripts, style sheets, media files, and so on. This is a basic web page or HTML document I created in previous videos. A web page is also referred to as an HTML document. So this is the piece of code, the HTML code that has created this basic web page. And if you look on the page, we've also got images. We've got image, not images. We've got an image, and this image here obviously is part of this web page. So if someone sees this page and they ask me, can I have the source code for this web page? So what I'll need to do basically is give them the project folder, which is this folder here. This here is what I would have to send to them, or make this folder available for download, or I can compress it using a software compression tool like WinZip, WinRAR, or 7-Zip. Make it compressible so that it is easier to send via email, or we can make that available as a download. So this will be what I will send to whoever's made a request for the source code for the web page. So if I open up this folder here, it contains everything that was used to build the web page. We can see this is the index here, which is this page here. And then we've got inside the images folder, we've got the image I used, which is the image of this puppy. And we've got the other folders, although there's nothing in this script folder and there's nothing in the style sheet at the moment, but this is basically what is known as the source code, all the components you use in building your website or creating a computer program. Next, I'm going to show you how you can view the source for a web page. So I'll start with this page here. So to view the source, all you need to do is right click anywhere inside the page that is opened, and there's an option here that says view page source. So if you click on it, it opens up. As you can see here, we can see the HTML we've used to construct this page, which is this HTML here. So that's basically how to view the source for a web page. Obviously this is very simple page, but if you want to view the source for a more complicated website like Facebook or Google, there will be a lot more in here, and some of it you may not be able to read because it will contain other stuff apart from HTML as well. So this is the Google homepage. So if I wanted to view the page source for here, I'll just right click and click on view page source. You can see when it launches that there's a lot of stuff in here, but you can see just about make out the HTML, the doc type, which is there, And then you can see other stuff as well, because there may be things like advertisement and other things related. You can see this is more complicated than a very simple web page we've seen. So basically, if you want to view some of the code behind a website, you just go to the page source and you can see it. A lot depends on the programming language used. There are some programming languages that the actual source code is not displayed when you go to view page source. The actual code is processed by the backend server, and then the server returns the processed after converting it into a way the web browser can read. It then sends that back to the web browser. So sometimes you may not always be able to read what's in the page source. This is a simple website called example.com. So www.example.com. You can see it's a very basic website. If I wanted to view the page source to see how this page was constructed, I just right click and go to view page source, and you can see the page source. It tells you, you can see the HTML used to build the page. This is some CSS here as well, and here we've got some media files. So basically it shows you how the page was constructed.